What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. We're talking about Landman Season 2, Episode 4, called Dancing Rainbows. And the episode opens up with another sudden, tragic death as a big rig slams into a parked truck with the man inside that is apparently already dead. And fortunately, the man inside the big rig works for MTEX and is given a second chance at life as he makes it to the hospital, as we find out at the end of the video. And this episode is reminding us the theme that Taylor Sheridan has written is that death is here, it is never going away. But to look at what life gives you when you have second chances, what is remaining and what can we do with it. And before we dive into the character arcs and the themes here, do me a favor, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, it's free, it really helps me out. Hit that bell for notifications every time I upload a video so you're notified, so you can enjoy my content. I really do appreciate it. Let's talk about Ariana and Cooper's arc here, and it's about learning each other's rules. Mainly Ariana's, of course, being a woman, and Cooper not understanding the game that they're trying to play, or that she's trying to play, and he's trying to understand. Because after a late night at the patch, when she sees that Cooper's asleep against her garage door this time, as he's concerned she didn't answer his phone calls, it's a bit of a callback and a reverse of their dynamic from an earlier episode. And he's just there to pick up a coat because he has to go to his grandmother's funeral, who he never really knew. And obviously, without hesitation, she wants to be there for him because he was there for her. And I think the key development here is that Ariana is challenging him emotionally because she wants a man who doesn't just politely walk away when she pushes him. She wants someone who will fight to be there for her. She wants someone who stays, maybe apologizes when he messes up or doesn't do things the way she thinks they should be done. And obviously, over the course of the episode, getting some good advice from his grandfather, TL Pops, he finally begins to understand the game when she's talking about it. And it's not necessarily about manipulation, but just this emotional persistence that he needs to understand. He needs to understand how to listen to her, because that's something that most women will always say to us men. You didn't listen. And it's like, well, I heard you, but you didn't hear it in the context and the approach that most women want us to think. And now by the end of the episode, this is the first time he stops reacting and starts kind of choosing the right words and the right actions. And of course, now he's back in the sheets. Tommy has a big role in this episode, as we know. He has to deal with grief, guilt, and the father that he ran away from. Tommy's road trip with his daughter Ainsley, his wife Angela, Dale, and Nate. There's no signal, there's no distractions, but there's too many people in one vehicle, too many personalities, really. Just from Angela herself trying to pick a playlist and almost chewing off Nate's head, as she calls him, Neil, of course. He dodges a bullet when he gets advice from Ainsley and Dale, and Tommy is just like, it's a funeral. We don't need to be all happy-go-lucky. We're supposed to be depressed. And everything that happens at lunch is quite monumental because we hear a lot about the backstory from Tommy, from what his childhood was about, from the fact that he was 14 years old and had to bring his mom up with CPR, who just vomited in his face, proceeded to kick him in the face, go back down and make another drink because she's an alcoholic. And that was a wake-up call for him. I gotta get the hell out of here, because he calls out his father, who's sitting right next to him, says he was too weak to leave, so I left instead. Very powerful, but also extremely depressing. And then later on in the episode, when Ainsley is crying on the couch, and it's a really nice father-daughter moment, Tommy really opens up for the first time and reveals that he once had a baby sister who was 4 months old who died of SIDS. And if you don't know what SIDS is, it's sudden infant death syndrome, which is very tragic, and the trauma that really broke his mother and sent her spiraling out of control. And that is something that has happened to a lot of people in real life. So I think, again, the writing from Taylor Sheridan here is fairly accurate. As he explains to Ainsley, this doesn't justify his mother's actions from his childhood, but explains the emotional hole that he grew up in. I actually think Angela had some great moments here, aside from her, normal chaotic side, but she is able to cut through to Tommy with clarity. You see it when they're about to leave and head back home. She's trying to get Tommy to speak with his father, because who knows how much time Pops actually has left. And finally, at the end of the episode, when they have to shut the door so they don't wake the entire house based on the proposition that Angela has for him, it's to basically saying your father needs and deserves peace, but so does Tommy. And I think he could only get it by fixing what's broken with his father, by having him move in. Bringing Pops home allows them to fix what has been broken, or at least gives him a second chance. And obviously to Tommy, it might seem a bit unnecessary and terrifying, but it actually is necessary, because now he can spend more time with his grandkids and obviously get to know his wife a little bit more. There's a lot of opportunity here for second chances for Tommy and his family. The final scenes between Tommy and his father is probably the emotional peak of this episode here, as Tommy sits next to him as the sunset is happening. And granted, Pop says he doesn't deserve this. Tommy's reply to that, saying, what does deserving have to do with this? That line isn't about forgiveness per se. It's more of a release, a relief for both of them. There's a lot that actually goes into that. There's a lot of meaning that goes behind the invitation, the second chance, especially when Tommy says, I already got your stuff. You're not setting one more foot in this Prairie View living home. It's almost like Tommy realizes that he's spent and wasted his life here doing nothing. It's time to fix that. It's time to change that. And while I might not agree with it, but I got to do something for my wife here. Otherwise, she might rip my head off. And again, it's about Tommy. It's about this man who's listening to his wife so that his life doesn't become a living hell. Now, this might bring more drama in the coming and remaining episodes of season 2 here, but I think, again, we can probably expect some good, relatable themes to occur. And just to kind of top it off, great writing, great acting between Sam Elliott and Billy Bob Thornton here. Rebecca has an interesting arc in this episode because she's losing control in the world where she wants to always be in control. This panic attack that she has when they're taking off, granted it's through 70-mile-per-hour gusts, it shows a version of Rebecca we've never seen before, her being out of control. And maybe again, as fate turns out, Charlie, the man sitting next to her who provides her and calms her with some drinks, some humor, a bit of vodka and watermelon juice, right? Nice combo. It turns out that she kind of likes him maybe, or is starting to, because after a nice landing that she's much more free with, turns out she wakes up in his bed the next morning, unsure of what happens, but it all starts to come back. And, as Charlie is very nice and easygoing and charming and says, what's mine is yours. And obviously you can go take a shower, blah, blah, blah. She's uncomfortable. She's being vulnerable. But also I think this is a humanizing experience for her that she's not really used to. And I think, again, Taylor Sheridan's probably writing this female character here that it's a reminder to even the most controlled people can unravel when life stops, giving them some clear answers and allowing them to maybe be recalibrated. I am curious to see how this arc turns out between Charlie and Rebecca. I'd like to see, again, her personality change just a bit, become a little bit more human and add some more flavor to her character here by having someone that maybe opens up some doors that she usually doesn't have open, and maybe she becomes a more likable character with other characters in the show. Kimmy obviously has a big part in this episode when she's letting go of a life that's now gone, visiting Monty's grave and dumping out a whole bottle of Old Pappy, which is just insane, dropping off a nice illegal cigar, of course, too, that was difficult to find. But it's about closing a chapter, especially when she wakes up the next morning and says, I want to put the house on the market. She's obviously making changes and wants to do things the way she feels is fit and necessary to her next chapter, like meeting with Danny Morell by herself. Now, the conversation at lunch shifts into a bit of a dangerous territory because she's asking for the offshore drilling help. And that's something that Danny can provide, but he doesn't want to do it without Tommy's knowledge or Tommy's consent. The great metaphors that are being used here with him being a snake and eating other snakes, and we don't go after the quails and the rabbits, which is essentially he's saying Cammy is, but that Tommy's a hawk, but hawks also eat snakes. As we know, the snake and the hawk must talk. Sorry to rhyme there, but it's something that he's saying, I will help, but not without Tommy's negotiation first. And I think Cammy is learning a bit of the process here, that she's stepping into negotiation without realizing she's also stepping into a hierarchy of sorts. Also very curious to see how Tommy's going to respond to Cammy meeting with Danny without his knowledge, but also what's going to happen with them, the fact that he doesn't want to be a partner to Danny, but yet he kind of already is. And the funeral brings two versions of Dottie to our attention here. It's threading multiple emotional truths, like Pop's warning Cooper about the game that Ariana is trying to get him to understand, but it's advice born from experience that he's obviously had to learn and deal with. At lunch afterward, Tommy is telling us a brutal story about him trying to save an overdose mother at the age of 14, as I mentioned earlier, but it's a moment again that has defined him more than any memory of his affection. He leaves the table because of the grief that he's experienced. This isn't really him being nostalgic. It's this leftover residue that he wants to get rid of for good, and which is why he says, I'm celebrating her death and this being over with. Now, Pops counterbalances that with a story of Dottie being 17, chasing rainbows and lawn sprinklers, and it's a flash of who she was before the darkness. And then he admits that he wasted his life on hope for 60 years. It's, I think, one of the rawest lines written in this entire episode, especially when he looks and the camera pans to Ariana, who also looks at Cooper. It's a subtle hint to them to say, stop wasting your life, especially if you've got this thing like you hope things will happen. Just start living it through. And I think this episode is quietly suggesting as well that love without boundaries becomes longing, and then the longing becomes regret. And that goes back to the line as well that Pop says, saying that he hoped that the rainbows would catch up and outdo the demons, but they never did. Last but not least, I don't want to forget that survival isn't the same as recovery here, especially when we're looking at the crew with Boss involved, and Jarrell who's alive at the hospital, but he's blind. He's terrified. He's disoriented, and obviously, who could blame him? And Boss and the crew, they don't know exactly how to process it. And again, how would you, especially if you've never had to be in that sort of experience before? They're relying on the doctor to try and console him, telling us that he's going to have some neurological issues. We don't know how long they'll persist or if they'll ever go away. And again, you kind of feel for Jarrell here because we know he has mouths to feed. We know he has a family, and yet his eyes are swollen. He can't see. So how is he supposed to do his job if he can't see? And I think this is a tragedy that is no longer theoretical or happening to other people here. It's here. It's happening to people in the inner circle and Tommy's crew. It's something that, again, has happened from the first season, and it's starting to become more irreversible. My final thoughts here, who actually gets a second chance at life? Episode 4 is all about that, whether it's given, resisted, or forced upon these characters here. Tommy gives ones to Pops by allowing him to live with the family. Kami gives one to herself by letting go of her past with Monty involved. Cooper is getting one from Ariana here. Rebecca stumbles into one, and then Jarrell receives one at a cost. And then, of course, some characters just lose the chance entirely here. And to reiterate one more thing, Taylor Sheridan in this episode is making it clear that death is completely random. We don't know what tomorrow brings. We don't know that tomorrow is promised for anyone, and that there are forms of redemption that are forced upon us or that can be chosen. But at the same time, we need to be able to do what we can and provide those second chances to people, sometimes even if they don't deserve it, because we never know what's going to happen on the other side. But that'll do it for this video. If you liked it, enjoyed it, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe. I really do appreciate it. Hit the bell for notifications as well. If you're new here, I appreciate you making it this far through the video, and maybe drop a comment to say, hey, what your favorite moment in this episode was, who your favorite character was. Did you like anything particularly more than others, or did you not like the episode for some reason, or maybe hate certain parts? Either way, curious to see what your thoughts are. I'll catch you guys on the next episode here in the Plot Strikes Back. Cheers.